Welcome to the National Genealogical Society SLAM Idea Showcase. My name is Scott Hall. I am Manager of History and Genealogy at St. Louis County Library in St. Louis, Missouri, and the 2021 SLAM Idea Showcase Coordinator. SLAM Idea Showcase is a new event whose purpose is to bring together people and organizations providing information to genealogical researchers, to share ideas, network, build collegiality, and exchange information. Today's event was built on the foundations of Librarians Day, which has been for many years a pre-conference event at both NGS and FGS annual conferences. Planning for this event began last year when I was asked to coordinate Librarians Day for the 2021 conference. Once our committee met, we began to consider how the NGS-FGS merger could also be a good opportunity to revisit and perhaps reimagine Librarians Day. While Librarians Day targeted libraries and archives, the committee wanted to expand participation to other organizations that also provide information to genealogical researchers. The result is the SLAM Idea Showcase. SLAM is an acronym that stands for Societies, Libraries, Archives, and Museums. For the showcase event, we invited these and other organizations, such as universities, to submit poster sessions illustrating their innovative and creative programs and projects. We wanted the SLAM Idea Showcase to be interactive. We wanted to give attendees the opportunity to talk to each other, share ideas, and gain inspiration by connecting with others. The pandemic, of course, has made holding in-person events impractical, but we have tried to retain the interactive aspect as much as we could in the virtual environment. Instead of proposals for in-person poster sessions, we asked organizations to submit 5-minute videos illustrating their projects or programs. We were delighted to have received 32 poster session submissions. Members of our committee reviewed them and chose 6 to highlight at the SLAM Idea Showcase main stage program. 3 poster sessions have been chosen to receive cash awards of $250 each, and 3 additional ones were chosen for honorable mention. At the end of the main stage program, you will have the opportunity to view the video for each entry and chat with poster session creators. Before we continue further, I would like to acknowledge and thank the people who made the SLAM Idea Showcase possible. First, I would like to gratefully acknowledge the SLAM Idea Showcase sponsors, Ancestry, Vivid Pics, and Collectionaire, for their generosity and support. Next, a tremendous thank you to everyone who submitted poster sessions for this event. We are grateful for your willingness to commit to the time and effort it took to put together your proposals, and we appreciate your willingness to share ideas that will inspire others. Without you, there would be no SLAM Idea Showcase. I would also like to sincerely thank the colleagues who volunteered to serve with me on the SLAM committee. Thank you for the many hours and the ideas you contributed in planning and shaping this event. The committee members are Leslie Anderson, MSLS, Reference Librarian for the Local History Special Collections Branch of the Alexandria, Virginia Library. Sharon Cook McInnes, PhD, CG, Chair of the NGS Transition Team. Jacob Eubanks, MLS, Assistant Manager of History and Genealogy at St. Louis County Library, St. Louis, Missouri. Susan Kaufman, MLIS, FTX, SGS, Senior Manager for Clayton Library Center for Genealogical Research, Houston, Texas. Judy Russell, JD, CG, CGL, Professional Genealogist, Genealogical Speaker, and Blogger as the Legal Genealogist. Matt Rutherford, MLIS, Curator of Genealogy and Local History for the Newberry Library, Chicago. Allison Dupre Singleton, MA, MLS, Senior Genealogical Librarian at the the Genealogy Center at Allen County Library, Fort Wayne, Indiana. I would also like to thank the National Genealogical Society staff, especially Aaron Shiflett, Conference Manager, and Matt Menashes, Executive Director, for their support in planning this new event and in helping us transform it into a virtual program. And last but certainly not least, many thanks to Jan Alpert, FNGS, NGS board member and 2021 conference coordinator, for asking me to coordinate the SLAM Idea Showcase, for her support, and for her willingness to let our committee try out a new idea. And now for a short overview of today's program. We will begin with the Philby Award for Genealogical Librarianship. Announcement of the Philby Award has long been a feature of Librarians Day at the NGS conference, and we would like to continue the tradition as part of the SLAM Idea Showcase. We thank ProQuest, who has sponsored the Philby Award since 2006. The presentation will be made by Judy Russell and ProQuest representative Rick Nelson. Following the Philby Award presentation, we will watch a presentation from the Library of Virginia. The LVA was prepared to be the host library had the 2021 NGS conference taken place in person. We would like to still recognize the LVA as our virtual host library, and we look forward to hearing from this fine institution. After the LVA presentation comes the main event, the SLAM Idea Showcase, featuring the SLAM Committee's top 3 poster session selections and 3 additional ones selected for honorable mention. Judy Russell will serve as Master of Ceremonies to introduce the award winners and their poster session videos. The videos will be followed by a question and answer session with the poster session creators. After the main stage program, please take time to explore all 32 poster session submissions in individual sessions. Before we proceed with the program, I would like to take this opportunity to mention that the St. Louis County Library History and Genealogy Department, of which I am manager, is home to the National Genealogical Society book loan collection. The collection, transferred from the National Genealogical Society to St. Louis County Library in 2000, makes available a growing collection of 30,000 genealogy books for checkout and interlibrary loans. Researchers can, of course, also visit the NGS book loan collection in person at St. Louis County Library, where they will find other resources for genealogical research and an expert staff to assist them. You can learn more about the NGS book loan collection and other resources available at St. Louis County Library by visiting the library's website. Thank you again for joining us today. We hope that you discover new ideas and find inspiration for your own organizations. And now, on with the show and the presentation of the Philby Award.
My name is Judy Russell, and it's my honor and my privilege to be here for this presentation of the Philby Award for Genealogical Librarianship. I'm joined by David Rencher, Chief Genealogist of Family Search and the Director of the Family History Library in Salt Lake City, and by Rick Nelson, Senior Product Manager for News and Genealogy of ProQuest. We'll begin with some brief remarks by David on behalf of the genealogical librarian community.
Judy, I'm delighted to be here. It's good to be with you and Rick both. What a delight and an honor to be asked to just share a few words here. We're at a great turning point in ProQuest history, if you will, with the retirement of Bill Forsyth, a man whom we've all known and loved for many, many years. Bill has been particularly in tune with our community. He had a unique way to connect with librarians and scholarship, and to be able to entertain and inform us on ProQuest products throughout his career. And he did that using elements of his own family history. And so you might show up at a conference event, and here he has a faucet on his table, and lo and behold, he's able to tie his research on ProQuest to the faucet to his family. And I don't think anyone on the planet could do that as well as Bill could do it. And we're all indebted to him for just a lifetime of career there.
Thank you, David. Rick, we're welcoming you on behalf of ProQuest. Care to make a couple of comments?
Yes, on behalf of ProQuest, I'm extremely pleased to be here and to continue our long support of the National Genealogical Society and the Philby Award for for genealogical librarianship. To underscore what David said, I have big shoes to fill in taking over for Bill, and he will be sorely missed throughout the society, throughout the community, and throughout ProQuest. But I look forward to doing this in person next year with everybody.
Terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now for the Philby Award itself. Traditionally, the winner is not told in advance, and this year, by the magic of technology, we're hoping that tradition can be upheld. Now, the Philby Award for Genealogical Librarianship is named for the late P. William Philby, former director of the Maryland Historical Society, author of many core genealogical reference tools that genealogists have relied on for decades. The award was first presented at the 1999 annual NGS Family History Conference. This year's award and the accompanying $1,000 prize are generously underwritten by ProQuest, which has been the sponsor of this award since 2006. Now, this year, as in all years, the Philby Award is presented to a genealogical librarian who has made significant contributions to patron access to information, or to the preservation of historical records, or to publishing materials contributing to the field, or who has engaged in other activities significantly advancing genealogy and local history, or whose work has encouraged others to be innovative in the field. And often in the past, the award winner has been chosen because of a particularly outstanding contribution in one of those areas. This year's award winner was chosen because of outstanding contributions in all of those areas and more. A graduate of Brigham Young University with a degree in family and local history, a double-credentialed genealogist, a passionate advocate of records preservation and access, author of a volume in the National Genealogical Society's Research in the States series, a gifted teacher and lecturer, a leader in the genealogical community with service to the Federation of Genealogical Societies, the Utah Genealogical Society, and the National Genealogical Society, just to name a few. A thinker and a planner whose vision for the library the recipient heads led to making lemonade out of the lemons of the pandemic this past year, pushing forward with changes to the physical plant to better accommodate and maximize patron access that couldn't have been done if the library had been open. That library, of course, the largest genealogical library in the world, the Family History Library, and its director, to whom I am pleased to present the 2021 Philby Award, David E. Rencher. And would you like to say a few words now, Mr. Rencher, sir?
Well, I am shocked and honored. I'm honored by the colleagues who I now stand shoulder to shoulder with, previous recipients of this award, and couldn't be more honored than to receive this award from ProQuest and from the community. It definitely means a lot to me. Many years, my love of the library, my love of records. I am a confessed records nerd. I don't have to have anybody in records for me to just spend hours looking at records, and I am thoroughly pleased with the services that I think we can provide on a more grand scale for all of our guests at the Family History Library. I can't wait to throw our doors wide open and have everyone come back to the library and partake of the new experience that's there. I can't thank ProQuest enough for their dedication and commitment to the genealogical community and to the library community and all that it stands for. Yeah, I'm just about speechless at this point, but thank you.
Congratulations, David.
Hello, everyone. I am Ashley Ramey, the Community Outreach Specialist for the Library of Virginia, and I am happy today to present to you Finding Your Virginia Roots at the Library of Virginia. Before this presentation, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Greg Kimball, Division Director of Public Services and Outreach.
Hi, I'm Greg Kimball, Director of Public Services and Outreach at the Library of Virginia. On behalf of everybody here, I'm delighted to be part of the National Genealogical Society meeting in 2021. Please visit our virtual booth and find out about our remarkable resources. We will miss the excitement of seeing you in Richmond, but if you do decide to visit us in person, the library is open by appointment with limited hours and COVID protocols in place. Please contact us to plan your trip through our website at lva.virginia.gov. If you have specific records that you have identified, we may be able to help you remotely. You will also find millions of pages of our most popular resources online at virginiamemory.com. Among those are Making History, our digital transcription project, Virginia Untold, a unique database of African American resources, and Virginia Chronicle, our digital newspaper project. We want to help you tell your story as part of Virginia's story. So thanks again for inviting us to joining you virtually for the 2021 NGS conference. Thank you.
Like Greg mentioned, the Library of Virginia was established in 1823 by the General Assembly to care for the state's growing book collection. Located at 800 East Broad Street in downtown Richmond, the library's collection contains 129 million items. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Library of Virginia is only open Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. by appointment. Check our website for closing directions and information on how to schedule an appointment. The library's website is located under the image on the screen. Now, let's discuss what's new at the Library of Virginia. On the screen, you will find the library's homepage. Where the golden arrow is pointing, you will find our new catalog. The new catalog allows researchers to search through books and government publications, journals and newspaper titles, archives and manuscripts, maps, and selected digital collections. If you have any questions regarding the library's catalog, please direct them to our reference librarians. Additionally, the library is in the process in changing how we access our research guides and bibliographies. The new system that we are using is called LibGuides. LibGuides is a platform for easily creating and sharing guides about different topics, subject areas, courses, services, and collections. To access our research guides and bibliographies, go to our homepage under the section for the public, then select Research Guides and Indexes. Now, let's discuss some of the digital collections available on Virginia Memory. Virginia Memory has been designed as a gateway to the library's digital collections, like our online exhibitions, digital collections like Virginia Untold, the African American narrative that provides access to the library's pre-1865 African American records. Now, I will discuss two of the digital collections available that are accessible from home without a library card. Virginia Chronicle is a historical archive of Virginia newspapers providing free access to full text searching and digitized images of over 1 million newspaper pages. As of the end of January 2021, there are over 1.3 million pages in this collection. On this screen, you will find a sample of the recently added newspapers, like the Columbia News from Arlington, Virginia, dating from 1941 through 1945. The Chancery Record Index is a result of archival processing and indexing projects overseen by the Library of Virginia and funded in part by the Virginia Circuit Court Records Preservation Program. Each of Virginia's circuit courts created chancery records that contain considerable historical and genealogical information. There are over 274,000 cases indexed in the database and over 11.5 million images of chancery causes available online. On the screen, you will find the recently added localities as well as localities that are currently being digitized. If you have any questions regarding this presentation or the library's collections, please contact the library through email or phone. And thank you.
Hi all, I'm Rick Voigt, CEO and co-founder of VividPix. It's been great learning about all the wonderful things that you're doing and planning. Thank you for taking the time to share with others. It's VividPix's honor and pleasure to work with NGS to sponsor this event, to work with many of you, and we'd love to get to know and work with more of you. For those of you who are not familiar with VividPix Restore software, it automatically improves scanned images, virtually any photo, document, microfilm, microfiche. It also includes the ability to fine-tune those images, to add metadata, and it's extremely easy to use. Please go to our website, download a free trial, and give your pics and documents to VividPix Fix. We're happy to give to the event winners and runners-up our Restore commercial software license. This $199.99 per year license allows you to be able to install the software on all of your patron computers, allowing them to download and improve their images, to bring in their own images. It also allows you to be able to use it in your operations. Again, it's been great spending time with you, and we look forward to getting to know you more.
And now what everybody's waiting for. As Scott Hull explained earlier today, the Slam Idea Showcase is a new event. And the idea was to give people and organizations that provide information to genealogists a chance to strut your stuff a little bit, to show off what you're doing, to share, and to network with others. Now, this is a new event. We really weren't sure what the response was going to be, whether we'd even get anybody to participate, and what exactly we would do if we threw a party and nobody showed up. And then the deadline arrived, and we found ourselves with an entirely different problem. How in the world we were going to even begin to choose among the outstanding submissions to designate just a few as award winners and honorable mentions. The range and the scope of what we saw literally blew us away. Just about every single submission had a passionate defender during the judging process, because there was some where we were charmed with the simplicity of the idea that was presented. Some where we were astonished at the scope and vision. Others, well, we were just flat out amazed at the range of activities that societies, libraries, archives, and museums are engaging in for the benefit of and of interest to the genealogical community. And I can't emphasize enough that if we'd been able to give an award to every single submitter, we'd have done it. I can't emphasize enough what a treat you're in for when the doors to the video sessions open and you have the chance to see all of these amazing presentations for yourselves. Now, that being said, our role as judges, and I was one of the judging team, was to select 3 award winners and 3 for honorable mention using a set of criteria that was included in the call for proposals. So we were hoping to see, we certainly weren't disappointed, a range of projects that would serve many people, help providers assist their genealogical patrons, involve the community, that could be adopted or adapted by others with similar needs, that would serve underrepresented communities and or promote enthusiasm among young or new researchers. So based on these criteria, there were 6 proposals that stood just that little bit above the rest. I'm going to present first the 3 honorable mentions in purely alphabetical order by the title of the submission, and then the 3 award winners, again in alphabetical order. So, our honorable mentions. Kentucky Town Hall, submitted by the Kentucky Historical Society. Using homegrown researchers and homegrown resources, this is a totally localized blend of Who Do You Think You Are and Genealogy Roadshow aimed at folks with Kentucky roots. It's certainly a project that would take some planning and, of course, needs some local support to be adapted elsewhere. But how it was done in Kentucky, how others might be able to do it in their areas, are covered nicely.
Welcome to the slam entry for the Kentucky Historical Society's Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall Project. Do you have a Kentucky-based family history mystery? As home to the largest genealogy and family history collection in the state, we know for a fact that many descendants of Kentucky ancestors are out there trying to research their way back home. In 2013, we converted our print genealogy publication to a free online-only format, creating Kentucky Ancestors Online and reaching so many more with Kentucky roots. In 2016, we took the concept further and created a yearly event, Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall, which was designed to help solve those elusive family mysteries through community expert consultations, speaker presentations, vendors, and a filmed research reveal. With shows such as Finding Your Roots, Who Do You Think You Are, and Genealogy Roadshow as our inspiration, we decided to ask for submissions from around the country, telling us about their Kentucky brick wall. No celebrities, just regular people with Kentucky roots who want to learn more about where they came from. Our ultimate goals of filming the reveals were centered on broadcasting to a wide audience, educating viewers about Kentucky history and demonstrating the research path to their ancestors. After several years of researching, hosting, filming, and editing, this dream became a reality this year. As Season 1 was launched around the state via airtime on local television stations. After our initial launch date, each episode is then made available for free via our YouTube channel. And if you have Kentucky ancestors that have eluded you over the years, please visit KentuckyAncestors.org to learn how to submit your own family history mystery. Now sit back and enjoy our teaser trailer for Season 1 of Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall.
Funding provided by Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall was filmed at the headquarters of the Kentucky Historical Society. Join us as we reveal Kentucky family mysteries, share tips from our experts, and learn about Kentucky history.
Hello, I'm Renee Shaw, and welcome to Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall by the Kentucky Historical Society. I'm so glad to be here with you all, with this audience, and we have Barbara, who's with us. You've come all the way from Chicago.
Yes, I have.
So let's talk about...
Kentucky Ancestors Town Hall connects genealogists to resources they can use.
So this is new information. This is interesting.
Explores new topics in genealogy.
That is so cool. That
That's
really
a
is
signature.
amazing.
And reveals answers to family history mystery.
Their proximity on the list indicates a close relationship between the two men.
That's great.
Isn't that something?
It's a day of genealogy tips.
Every researcher will encounter these elements of misinformation.
Kentucky history.
John Gregg Fee not only established Berea College, but through the assistance of the American Missionary Association, established many schools to teach African Americans across the state.
And surprises.
Oh, I'm related to somebody who was classified by the Union Army as steals promiscuously from citizens. What a legacy.
What a legacy. Will you tell Lee who that ancestor was?
William Love was my 6th great-grandfather.
Is that
through
right?
his son Robartus.
Wow.
So we're cousins. I had a feeling we were cousins.
Telling Kentucky's story, one family at a time.
Rooted in Inclusion, submitted by the St. Louis Public Library. A stunningly simple proposal that encourages those with blended and non-nuclear families to get involved with and enjoy family history. One of the hitches in public school programs, in any public programs, is that the two-parent model, it isn't what the folks have. And so those with step parents or adoptive parents or other non-nuclear families feel left out. What you're going to see shows inclusion rather than exclusion. It's brilliant and it's really easy.
Hi there, my name is Mary Kay Cleet and the Genealogy Manager at the St. Louis Public Library. I'd like to speak about how the St. Louis Public Library has moved away from the family tree model in our resources as part of an ongoing effort to make our libraries the most inclusive spaces they can be. One thing I love about genealogy is how much the field adapts and responds to research trends and scientific developments. DNA tests and newly released records can and do change the face of genealogical research. However, the way researchers record their finds has remained pretty fixed, and I think that's a missed opportunity. For a long time, genealogy has been synonymous with the family tree, a diagram that charts families' history literally through time. The standard tree diagram is a helpful and clear way of tracking these genetic relationships. However, those genetic relationships are becoming less and less important in the modern definition of family. Modern families come together in myriad ways, but genealogists only have one way to chart a family. It didn't seem right to me. As the genealogy manager at SLPL, inclusion is a major part of my vision. Our building is a beautiful Carnegie Library designed by Cass Gilbert and built over a century ago. And while it's an incredible place to visit, research, or sit and read, it can be an intimidating place to visit too. We're also located in a diverse downtown area and serve many different communities in terms of age, race, gender, nativity, and experience. I wanted every researcher in our building to come in the door and find the tools they need and the resources they need to start their family story. That includes the databases we subscribe to, the books we collect, and the resources we provide. Rethinking our family tree chart was a key piece of this process. For many novice researchers, the family tree is the first step. What if that first step doesn't fit? After a lot of research, I settled on a family wheel. This option appealed most to me because of the ease with which you can divide each ring to reflect the family you're trying to chart. By darkening the lines on the wheel, or by adding more lines, researchers can create the diagram that works best for their project. You can see here how it would only require minor changes to include a step-parent, and can show a single-parent family just by folding the paper in half. The family tree model would require significant altering to include family members outside the nuclear family and would show omissions when those family members were missing. Much like ripples in a pond or tree rings, the family wheel gets bigger as you move outward, keeping generations organized and the maternal and paternal lines separate where applicable. The family wheel retains information held in the family tree while allowing for more customization. But why does this matter? Firstly, while the family tree model might be standard in the field of genealogy, there is no standard family. Researchers will and have run into problems as a result. Further, in our public library research setting, it is our job to remove those barriers to access. Sometimes what that looks like is changing your paperwork. A researcher should not have to create their own or request special copies from a librarian. The institution can and should work to meet the needs of their diverse community of researchers. Further, as we look toward the future of genealogy, children often first encounter the field during a school family tree project. Researchers have shown that if the family tree model doesn't fit their family, the field will seem frustrating, complicated, and not meant for them, throwing up those barriers once again. Moving away from the family tree model will help break those barriers down. Our public rollout of family wheel charts happened while St. Louis Public Library was offering curbside service only. Family wheels were included in genealogy take-and-make kits, and we were able to partner with other staff in the library to make a video about the kits and how to use them, which our customers responded to well, and our kits had to be replenished several times. Family wheels were also dispersed at branch locations where staff are energized to begin using them with their customers and appreciate the inclusivity. We also used family wheels during virtual programming, and attendees appreciated their flexibility and found them largely easy to use. Now that our library is back open to the public with limited capacity, we've replaced our paper family trees with family wheels and look forward to seeing more researchers and students make use of them in person once it's safe to do so. Thanks very much for your time, and please feel free to reach out with questions or thoughts. I very much look forward to hearing from you.
Our third honorable mention is roundtables, submitted by the Godfrey Memorial Library in Middletown, Connecticut. The library capitalized on existing organizations serving librarians in Connecticut to build an educational forum for those serving the genealogical community and for those with information assets that the genealogical community ought to be accessing. It's terrific. It's replicable, certainly born of the pandemic, but with enormous potential for facilitating networking in the long run at very little cost, something we all know is always a concern.
Hello, this is Carol Ansel. I'm the director of the Godfrey Memorial Library, Middletown, Connecticut, and I'm presenting our entry in the SLAM section of the National Genealogical Society Conference for 2021. A little bit about who we are in case you don't know us already. We are a member-based private library, and we specialize in genealogy and local history. We were founded in 1947 by Fremont Ryder, who was the head librarian at Wesleyan University, among many other hats that he wore in the library world. Our building was opened to the public in 1951. We are also the creator of the American Genealogical and Biographical Index, or the AGBI, which you may have run across in your research on Ancestry.com. It runs 226 volumes and includes 6 million entries. It indexes hundreds of books, and also the entire genealogy question and answer column that ran in the Boston Evening Transcript for about 40 years. There's our web address, www.godfrey.org. We encourage you to visit and to become a member. So we belong to CLC, which stands for the Connecticut Library Consortium. It's a multi-type consortium of libraries across the state. We used to have several of these, but over the years, there was consolidation down to one organization. One of the biggest things they do is negotiate contracts for prices on books and supplies, which everybody loves. But another one of their very important endeavors is overseeing the roundtable groups. Roundtables are small discussion groups that are built around smaller topics of interest. We are a multi-type cooperative, so we do include school libraries, college and university libraries, public libraries, and the rest of us go in there under special libraries. Of course, we're all special. In the spring of 2019, we at the Godfrey decided that there should be a roundtable for people who do genealogy and local history. Obviously, we do, but almost every public library has a local history collection as well and has someone assigned to working on those resources with the public. So we had a very enthusiastic response. We were able to meet in public initially. We've had between 20 and 30 people, and we're one of 36 of these sponsored roundtables. So you can see there's quite a variety. Here are some of the topics that we've discussed as a group we've been doing this for about 2 years. We did researching old house histories. This is a request that comes up quite frequently in public libraries, especially in our little New England scenic historic towns. We also had a program on cemeteries. I discussed the many places where there's cemetery information online beyond the one that everybody knows. And we also talked about visiting cemeteries in person and what you can find there and some of the symbolism that you might run across. We talked about using maps in genealogical research. That was a recent one that we had a lot of fun with. History scavenger hunts. Many public libraries have been sponsoring these, putting them up on their websites and sending families out into town to discover a little bit more about their history of their local area. We also talked about sources for historic newspapers, which is very important in genealogy research. We'd like to extend our reach a bit. We are just librarians at this point, and as important as we librarians are, we know that there are other people in the SLAM world that could benefit from this program that we've started. And so here's the Connecticut League of History Organizations, and it's basically another SLAM organization. You see in their description, they talk about museums, historical societies, and all who steward Connecticut's heritage collections, which would include libraries and archives. And this is some of the activities that CLHO is involved in. including serving as a communication hub to facilitate peer-to-peer networking. So that fits precisely with the Roundtable group. So in sum, this is not a rocket science idea. It's not very difficult to do, but it's very effective. So I would recommend finding out what your relevant state or local regional history organization is, and also library organizations, and join them. They may already have roundtable and discussion groups. In that case, your work's done for you and you can just join right in. But if they don't, take it upon yourself to start one. All you need is Zoom or an equivalent platform and a little enthusiasm. I think we all know how to deal with Zoom by now, and we are certainly a crowd of enthusiastic people. So thank you for listening, and please join us at the Godfrey Memorial Library.
Moving on to our 3 award winners. Again, in alphabetical order by project name. Beginning with the Congregations Project, submitted by the St. Louis Genealogical Society. This was an outreach to churches and synagogues in the Society's service area to offer help in capturing images of records of enormous value to genealogists, then indexing the records and putting them online, serving both the interest of historical preservation and the interest of availability of genealogical records. It's a big project, but the details about how to do it from soup to nuts, you're going to see them. So other SLAM groups can consider how similar efforts might be used in their areas as well.
Hello, my name is Carol Witten, and I'm the projects director at the St. Louis Genealogical Society. Our Congregations Project is designed to help congregations preserve their records and make the records more available to genealogists by scanning, indexing, and publishing the images online. Some of our congregations prefer to have their images limited to our members only. Others choose to make them publicly available. If you were to start a project like this, you would need to first appoint a coordinator, compile a list of the congregations to be covered, and decide the privacy guidelines you would use. We use the Missouri State Archives guidelines. Then you will need a bunch of volunteers of varying abilities. There is something for everyone. If you need more detail on these particular tasks, you might want to see our handout. Then we obtain permission from the congregation. We have created a permission letter template, which we either mail or email to them to obtain their signed permission. Then we begin scanning. We have an office, so we borrow the records temporarily from the congregation and bring them to our office. Most of the books are large bound books and need to be turned sideways in order to get the full 17-inch capability of the scanner page and scanned page by page. However, you could take the scanner to the congregation. The scanner is under the red arrow on the right, and it is portable if you're careful. We purchased one of our scanners with a grant. Next, we create a web page. The web page should include a short history of the congregation, its photograph, some links to it if it still exists, and to its previous locations and its cemetery. But most importantly, up at the top, a list of the records we obtained from them, including baptisms, confirmations, marriages, deaths, members lists, or pastor lists. For each of those, there is a subpage created. This is an example of a subpage. The subpage, in this case, is browse only. It has no index yet attached to it. Once we have a subpage with the indexes online to browse, then we begin indexing. First, we had to decide what to index and create an index template. Then the indexers get a copy of the template and a group of images, and they can either work in our office or remotely from their homes. After the index is completed, there are 2 proofreaders for each index. Then we add the index to the subpage. So here's an example of a subpage with the index added at the bottom. And you'll notice there are two new buttons that have appeared at the top, one of which is Refine Search, meaning that I can search for a surname. In this example, I've searched for the surname Wright. So these are all the Wright marriages from this congregation. I find the one I want and go over to the right and click on the blue link to the page. Here is the page. It is a members only page for this congregation, which means you must sign in first. If you haven't signed in already, you would get a message telling you to sign in. If you were not a member, you would get a message telling you that you could become a member in order to see this image. For the user, this is their last step. They would then copy the image to their desktop. However, for us, we have another step. We prepare a flash drive for the congregation with its images and its index and get the flash drives to them for their use. Please refer to our handout for additional information. Thank you for attending. This is our contact information in case you need it.
Next is the German Heritage in Letters project submitted by the German Historical Institute of Washington. You know, 1 in 6 Americans roughly has German ancestry, me included. So this project focusing on collecting, transcribing, and digitizing letters sent to and from Germany at the height of German immigration to the United States is an amazing contribution to genealogical research. And when you see this program, think about how it could serve as a model for other immigrant populations in your area as well.
My name is Anna Maria Boss, and I'm the librarian of the German Historical Institute in Washington, D.C. I'd like to thank you for your interest in the Institute's digital history project, German Heritage in Letters, available online at germanletters.org through the NGS SLAM Idea Showcase. The Institute is a center for advanced historical study, including transatlantic history, the history of migration, and digital history. In keeping with this mission, the aim of German Heritage in Letters is to find, collect, and share online letters sent to and from German-speaking immigrants in the United States between the 1800s and the 1920s. It is supported in part by Wunderbar Together, an initiative of the German Federal Foreign Office to celebrate the ties between Germany and the United States. Taking advantage of the potential of digital history, GermanLetters.org was launched in the spring of 2019 to gather German immigrant letters held by archival institutions and in private family collections. Our project relies on crowdsourcing letters from the public, citizen science researchers who transcribe the letters into machine-readable text, and open-source software. In our first 2 years, we've collected over 2,000 letters, and we are continuing to add more. The project's potential is vast. Between 1840 and 1920, more than 5 million people arrived in the United States from Germany and its predecessor countries, and today close to 1 in 6 Americans claim German ancestry. Letters were the most important way for families to remain in contact with each other despite the great distances. Mail statistics show at least 350 million letters were exchanged between the two countries over that period. In the year 1907 alone, almost 12 million letters were sent from Germany to the United States and 7 million in the opposite direction. In the 1970s, historians of migration in Germany began seeking out those letters, collecting or photocopying them from the descendants of immigrants' relatives. Scholars now recognize that to fully understand the experience of migration, it's important to also obtain the perspective of those who remained in the home community. German Heritage in Letters aims to meet this need by creating an archive of immigrants' letters collected in America, taking advantage of tools now available. Rather than gathering physical originals, we are digitizing these sources and making them available online for research and teaching. Letters are added to German Heritage in Letters through agreements with libraries and other institutions and through an online tool that enables members of the public to upload their letters and grant permission for their access and use. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the project also held digitization days at which members of the public could bring their historic letters to be scanned and learn about their contents from professional translators. We make the digitized letters available at germanletters.org and use new tools to make them accessible. The project's website is built using Omeka, an open-source content management platform for sharing cultural heritage collections developed by the Rosenzweig Center for History and New Media at George Mason University. With guidance from a web development firm called Artifacto, we also incorporated into the site a transcription tool called Scripto, which is based on the same software that powers Wikipedia. Before the 1920s, most Germans used a form of cursive handwriting called Kurrentschrift, which is no longer widely known. In order to transcribe these letters into searchable text, the website offers an interface in which people who know the handwriting can sign up to become volunteer citizen scholar transcribers. One of our most active transcribers is a pharmacist in Germany who likes solving the puzzle of deciphering old letters and points out that she's used to reading lousy handwriting. Since the spring of 2020, one of our partners, the German Society of Pennsylvania, has hosted online Transcription Tuesdays in which citizen scholars work together to transcribe the letters we've collected. Each letter opens a window into the past, and we've started sharing a remarkable variety of stories. Our online exhibit, An Invitation to Indiana, for example, tells the story of Hans Weinhardt, a Bavarian teenager who immigrated to Indiana in the aftermath of World War I and was taken in by the descendants of cousins who had arrived in the United States decades earlier. As we increase the number of letters transcribed and the total number of letters collected, we are very excited to be building a database for future research into the history of migration with such a strong public participation as both contributors and citizen scholars. If you would like to learn more, please reach out to us by emailing contact@germanletters.org.
And last, but hardly least, the Interactive Property Atlas submitted by the Chester County, Pennsylvania Archives, using modern technology to give us clues as to what we genealogists know is so important: location, location, location. Combining historical maps of property ownership with pivotal moments in Chester County history during the Revolutionary War. And as you'll hear in the video, it's something you don't have to be a technological whiz to do. This, again, is a project others can replicate in their own service areas, focusing on historical events there and the records of that local area.
As we trace the history of our ancestors back in time, the discovery of locations important to their history can be especially meaningful. Our ancestors, after all, were more than just names and dates. They lived entire lives full of love, sorrow, and tragedy, and they have colorful stories to share if we are creative in the places we look. But knowing exactly where our ancestors lived is complicated. Have you ever read land records? Read the wording? Sure, our ancestor bought 100 acres in Chester County, but how do you find that rock or the Spanish oak they keep mentioning? Surely that tree is dead 200 years on. Property research, even for seasoned pros, is complicated. Over the decades, many local historians and genealogists have created property maps that can help place our ancestors in general areas of the county. But what if you could use new technology to show them exactly where their ancestors lived? In September 2020, the Chester County Archives unveiled a new interactive property atlas, which documents the county's 1777 property owners, public roads, points of interest, and reported British plunderings during the Philadelphia campaign of the American Revolution. The project's original research intent was to contribute to a series of American Battlefield Protection Program grants awarded to the Chester County Planning Commission to preserve open space and interpret events relating to the 1777 Battle of the Brandywine, the largest battle of the Revolutionary War and a significant chapter in the history of the county. The Atlas portal is broken up into several parts. Of greatest interest to genealogists is the interactive map, which is composed of multiple layers. The property owner layer features those individuals who, in September 1777, or as close to that date that could be identified, legally owned property by deed, inheritance, or warrant right. To search for your ancestor, you can open up the attribute table on the right-hand side and make sure that the property owner's layer is selected. Then, sort the first column by ascending value. This will alphabetize all the last names of all the property owners. Then go ahead and scroll down until you see the person you're interested in and double-click on that row. When you do that, the map will zoom into and open up the pop-up information panel for the person's property. And depending on the property, you will find some extra details about your ancestors, especially if the property was passed down through inheritance. Once you have located your ancestors, you can start casting about the neighborhood. You will likely discover how many of your ancestors met their future spouses. You can use the points of interest layer to discover which churches or religious meetings existed close to their home. Did they own a mill or a tavern? Did they eventually migrate west or south like many 18th century Chester County residents? How close were they to the major migration trails like the Conestoga and Nottingham roads? More importantly, how were your ancestors affected by the events of September 1777? Were they in the path of the British Army? Were they loyalists, neutral Quakers, revolutionary Presbyterians? Were their lives upended by the destruction visited upon them, patriot or loyalist aside? Here you gain a small measure of your ancestors' place in history. Beyond the interactive map itself, there are additional resources like background information on the project, an instructional video for those seeking more information on how to use the atlas, printable PDF maps, and a project gallery where you can learn more about your ancestors' experience in colonial Chester County. To effectively create a GIS property map representing a single point in time will require a lot of research, but financially, the project itself costs very little beyond staff time. We start the process by using a 19th century property atlas. From here, we trace each property back to 1777 using primarily deeds, estate papers, and tax records. Once we have the property description closest to the events of 1777, we turn to deed mapping software. Using the deed mapping software, we reconstruct each property as it existed in that time period and piece everything back together as if it was a giant puzzle. Once we have fully mapped the township, we switch to our GIS software. We use QGIS, which is open source, meaning it is free and open for any non-commercial use. When you first begin, it appears daunting, but if two archivists with no experience in GIS mapping can figure it out, anyone can. The last piece of the puzzle is importing the data from QGIS into ArcGIS Online, which is how the project is accessed by the public. And there you have it. We believe it is important to continue to adapt and take advantage of technology to make history fun and engaging, to help more people connect to their past, one piece of property at a time.
Those are the top 6. By a whisker. There were in total 32 submissions, and every one of them worth our time to review, to think about, to consider how we might adopt or adapt it to serve a need in our communities. Right now, stay with us, because we're going to have a chance to do a little bit of live Q&A with our top submitters. Good afternoon, everybody. At least I'm assuming if you're in the United States, it's afternoon somewhere. Thank you all so much for joining us for this inaugural SLAM event. As I said when we got started, you're in for an enormous treat. The range and depth and scope of the projects, the ability to look at all of these videos starting when the Q&A is over and going afterwards on the NGS YouTube channel is just amazing. And speaking from the standpoint of a judge, I think you now understand a little bit better, having seen the 6 who came in on this, just how hard it was to make the choice. These are wonderful proposals, wonderful programs, and wonderful presentations. So we've got some time to do questions and answers. On the right-hand side of the screen for the main stage is a little set of bubbles that looks like talking heads. Feel free to go ahead and enter any question that you have for any of the top 6 whose videos you've now seen. They're being fed to me, I hope, by the miracle of technology, and we'll be able to get perhaps some of the answers. But by golly, if I'm going to serve as host of this situation here this afternoon, I get to ask the first questions. And I've got some questions for every one of these. And I'm joined, I'm delighted to say, by a representative of all 6 of our winners and honorable mentions. So I will ask everybody at the end to think about what could be done. What would be the one piece of advice that you would give any other SLAM repository looking to replicate what you've done? That's a general question. We'll kind of put that at the end. But I've got some really specific questions to start with. And I'm going to start with you, Cliff, from Chester County. The notion of overlaying those historical maps on the current maps, of course, isn't something that's brand new. But what was new to me in your video was a statement that you made that I want you to explain a little bit. You said, you don't gotta be an expert to do this.
And it's absolutely true. You know, I have no background in GIS mapping. You know, over the course of years, you know, especially with property researchers, you know, I've looked at maps, I understand maps, I understand property lines. But it's one thing to read a deed where you're getting the meets and bounds. It's another thing to basically get to the point where you can pinpoint exactly where that piece of property is on the current map. And I basically...
Cliff, you've hit the mute button, unfortunately.
Sorry. Basically, I learned through trial and error, and we started with a deed mapping software, which we then took those meets and bounds out of each of the original primary source deeds. And then we overlaid it on a 19th century property map, which had existing property boundaries. So that allowed us to line up the 1700 boundaries that we're using for this project over top of the 19th century, which then visually now you know basically the space of that particular piece of property. And then you jump another 100 years advance and using the parcel maps that most localities now have, showing current property boundaries. And you can visually see some of the existing lines. You know, I don't have any background in that. I didn't go for education. I just found the resources and tools to basically take each step forward.
That's terrific. And the great thing about what you did in doing this is demonstrated to all of us that this is absolutely positively something that we can and should be able to do. So that's terrific. Now, Carol Witten from the St. Louis Genealogical Society, there was a question in the chat that I want to pose to you. And that's the notion that you got a lot of cooperation from the churches in going ahead and putting together the congregation's project. My question basically is, did you get any pushback from some of the churches? And if so, what kinds of techniques did you use to, say, overcome the resistance? So you'll need to unmute yourself. We should have an unmute button somewhere in Zoom. Looking at the bottom left of your control panel, there should be a mute thing to click on.
There we go.
There we go.
We did get some feedback from a number of churches. There have only been maybe 2 that said no, they just won't participate. The rest of them, by sending someone to their board meeting to help them determine what the privacy guidelines were and help them understand that, we usually were met with some success. The problem is that all of them have a board, and they wish the board to approve this online business, and the people on the board often don't understand that privacy guidelines mean that you will cut off the images after 100 years for births and 50 years for deaths and so on. So
Oh,
that
terrific.
the
So that-
living people.
The personal impact then must have made a big difference.
Yes, I think so.
That's terrific. The thing that I really liked about the Congregations Project is that it ought to be replicable for even other types of organizations. I would think, for example, local labor unions or civic organizations that have records but have difficulty making them available, that this kind of a project ought to work pretty much anywhere.
Yes, and we did all of the cemeteries in St. Louis City and County before we did the congregations. And the cemeteries, we weren't doing images online at that point, so those are only indexed.
Terrific.
But we've now started working with funeral homes and historical societies who have things that they'd like to put online.
Wow, that's great. So a couple of questions for the German Heritage Project. Atiba, number one is, what range of years were the letters covering?
So our focus is on letters from the 1830s to 1920. We have some letters from basically we use a century cutoff for privacy reasons, although in cases where we have letters from direct descendants of the writers, then we'll go a little bit later into the 1920s.
And another question that we got from the audience was, did you use a particular type of transcription software? Was there something that made this easier for you?
Well, the software that we use is called Scripto, and it's based on what's used to transcribe media. To make Wikipedia, basically the idea is that you can add on to transcriptions as you make them, and it's built into the platform called Omeka, which runs the site.
Terrific. Question for Mary Kate of the St. Louis Public Library. The number of people who have posted saying, "Where do we get a copy of The Wheel?"
Well, that is one that I made, but it is in the handout that I provided for SLAM. So I saw the link for that floating around in the chat as well. So feel free to take that one and run with it, make whatever works.
What was the standout for me with that particular proposal was, number one, how simple it was, and number two, how absolutely brilliantly inclusive it was, that it makes getting past the whole question of the nuclear family, it just takes it out of the equation.
Yeah, that was key for me too. Those are the two things I really wanted to get out of whatever I created, because the family tree is so standard that the family wheel had to be simpler. I couldn't make something more complicated or harder to read or any of those things. So simple was key, and then easily inclusive. I found a lot of different family tree diagrams online when I was researching, but they would have to be like behind the reference desk and someone have to ask for them. And that's just as much of a barrier for someone to have to request something special. So I didn't want to do that. And I wanted to find the simplest, easiest, most transparent thing. And the wheel was what worked best for us.
Have you had any feedback from educators, like public school teachers who've used this?
Not yet, because of the pandemic. We have only just, I think, last week been allowed to go into schools again. So hopefully when we get certainly into September, maybe even some summer school folks, we'll be able to get some actual on the ground feedback with kids, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they think.
Terrific. Carol Ansell at the Godfrey. My question to you essentially is, you were able to build these roundtables on the backbone, basically, of an existing consortium of libraries. How difficult do you think it would be to expand this in an area where that backbone didn't already exist? What would need to be done?
Well, that certainly simplified things for me. I was already serving on the board of the CLC. But I'm sure, every state and every area is going to have some kind of library cooperative group. So I think that's a good place to start. Or I also mentioned the League of History Organizations. Similarly, I would imagine that there are existing historical society groups. So I think that's the first thing, is to see if there is an existing organization that you can piggyback on. Short of that, then you'd have to find out some way of reaching out to these groups and kind of bringing them together under one umbrella. So, but I would suspect there are already existing organizations out there in most cases.
Gotcha. All right, Kentucky, I'm leaving you for last because I'm just on this first round. And I'll tell you that the reason why I'm leaving you for last is so that I am desperately trying to resist the temptation of saying, how do I get to be one of the people whose Kentucky research you do? But the big question that I have for you is, clearly taking this onto the television platform is a fabulous way of getting this out to everybody in Kentucky. How hard was it to enlist the PBS stations, the public stations, the TV stations in general to sign on to give this a hand?
Actually, it came down to money. Clearly, we actually purchased airtime, and it's not as expensive as you think. Each one of those stations had their own price. We literally bought a slot, usually for like a Saturday evening. Sometimes a morning slot was okay. In fact, we've been told that in the Louisville market, we're outperforming General Hospital. Yay. So yeah, there are affordable slots that you can do that with. We did shop it to PBS first, our local PBS affiliate here in the state. And they're very interested. I think there's still some talks in that area, but at the end of the day, it came down to money. We literally opted to just purchase our own airtime, and it was actually pretty affordable for us.
So for all six of you, and I'll take you in order again. One of the big questions is, what kinds of sources of funding did you look to? Cliff from Chester County, where does the money come from for this kind of a project?
Well, to be honest, the only money that actually, well, there's one exception. Most of it is staff time. We used open source for basically every software except the Deed Mapper, which was like $100. And then we basically piggyback with our planning department for ArcGIS Online, which is basically the portal that you see there. And that's still fairly reasonable, I believe. But other than that, it really comes down to staff time.
Atiba, German Heritage?
Yeah, for us also, it's partially staff time. And then also we receive funding from Wunderbar Together, which I mentioned is a initiative of the German Foreign Federal Office. And that basically helped fund the develop the web development of our website and some of the graphic design features. But again, the project runs on Omeka, which is a free open source software. And so the kind of the underlying infrastructure can basically be done pretty cheaply. The hosting only costs $100 a year. So it's kind of more of what kinds of features and design elements you want to add on to it that kind of add on the expense. And then we also have the funding that we receive also pays for digitization fees from libraries and archives.
Gotcha. Carol Ansell.
Yeah, we really did ours on the cheap. So I think all we had was, well, of course, a membership in the two organizations, but we would have belonged to those anyway. When we were meeting in real life, it was the cost of donuts pretty much. So it was, it's been very affordable. Really, as I said, it's just those two memberships of the organizations that already exist. And in fact, I met on Thursdays, which is my either day off or work from home day. So I really kept the expenses very low.
One question for you on that, though. If we're talking an area that is less rich in expertise as Connecticut, and you're looking to bring in a speaker on a topic, is there a mechanism within the roundtables to support a budget for bringing in an expert or a speaker?
That's a good question. I think the few times that we've done it, we had people that were willing to do it for free. And being under the auspices of the Connecticut Library Consortium, I don't think they do have a budget. They do handle the Zoom end of things, and so that we don't have that expense. But again, we have a membership anyway, so I think those are the kinds of things people are likely to subscribe to for other reasons as well.
Gotcha. Mary Kate?
This is pretty inexpensive, which is also very inclusive about it. My time was spent kind of researching the best options. And so like everyone else kind of has said, staff time is the expense here. I think if we wanted to, we could expand from using a family wheel into creating a curriculum or into something like that and get it into the hands of more people. And that would be something we could probably grant fund. But the basic, resource to put in people's hands, pretty inexpensive to do.
While I have you on that topic, though, does the wheel lend itself to things like step siblings, step grandparents? I mean, it sure looks like just adding another connector.
Adding another ring. It kind of depends, which is something that I really liked about it too. That whatever makes sense for your brain is what can make it work for you. For some people, it's adding another circle entirely that's for your siblings side of it. Maybe it's a bubble within your bubble. Figuring out a way to convey that you do have aunts or uncles, or that you have siblings or step siblings. It's not quite as straightforward as moving out generationally as it could be, but it is, again, kind of infinitely adaptable. So I think there's whatever way makes it make sense is still there. It's still a possibility.
Gotcha. Sherry in Kentucky, yours was the expensive one. How do you pay for that?
Well, let me explain our budget structure. Is we are state government, but we also have a foundation that raises money for us. I will say, yes, there's two huge costs for us. One was obviously the research. We do have some on-site researchers here that we did a lot of research in-house wherever we could. And it's, we collect on the state, all 120 counties. So that helped us. Plus we also have the state archives in town. So convenience was good. Filming is the highest cost. And so that right there, we did raise money for that, but we also did get a corporate sponsor for some of that. And now we're shopping for more. I mean, just think, getting the episodes up on TV was a lower cost, honestly. But if you think about the advertisers that can piggyback on that, there's some money there. So this is our first season. So we're trying to court more sponsors as we go forward to build more seasons.
Now, thinking about the replicability of this, the town hall aspect of it, absent the television aspect of it, that could be replicated without so much of a budget. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. And in fact, the filming we got professional film crews and that kind of thing. But honestly, at the end of the day, the episodes end up going up on YouTube after they air on local stations. So you literally could get, you could film this on your own. And even if you didn't want to film it as a live event, that's how we planned it first. We planned this as a live event. We worried about the film crew capturing what they can. And in fact, unfortunately, we actually lost the very first season that we did, or the very first event that we did. We had Josh Taylor as our host, and we actually lost that season.
Oh, dear.
Because the film crew did not actually keep it stored, and so that we lost it. But yes, you can. We have community partners that come in that there's no cost to that. We have some local speakers. We even got, national vendors that came in. So we've been very fortunate. We treat it kind of like a mini conference. It's one day. Community partners are out there in the front, and then we've got vendors and speakers. We have a demo hall. We kind of cheated and took a little bit off of Roots Tech too and had a demo hall. So yes, it's absolutely very cost efficient if you just want to make it as a day-long event. And just, film what you can. I mean, and put it up on YouTube. It's absolutely replicable.
Gotcha. Carol Whitten at St. Louis. It seems to me that your time constraint, or that the time input, is huge for a project like yours.
Yes, if you live in a large city and county, as we do, we have probably at least 2,000 congregations, and it will take us years before we get to all of them. But the biggest cost we had was buying scanners. We had to expand our scanner capacity and buy some new overhead scanners so we could do books. Those are about $600 a piece. One of them we did get with a grant from the Missouri State Archives, specifically for this project.
And what years and what religions are you covering in the project? And was that targeted initially?
We tried to first collect a list based on phone books, city directories, running around people in automobiles looking to see what existed that we didn't know about and making a list. After that, we didn't try to prioritize anything specific, though we did go for the churches that had the oldest records first, because that was easier to talk people into doing. So that involved all the religions. We've covered every religion you can possibly think of, including, we've even got some Hindu and Buddhist temples on our list.
That's terrific.
As well as an Islamic mosque. However, we may never get to some of those. That's a long-term project. We've been doing this since 2014, at least. And we've probably covered 200 of the 2,000.
So 10%, well, another 70, 80 years, you'll have it done, no problem. Atiba, a question for the German project, and that is, I'm assuming, perhaps assume is the wrong thing for a genealogist ever to do, but the letters are then not merely transcribed, but translated, am I correct?
That is our goal. It's a matter of having the capacity to do the translation along with the transcription. So usually, when we have a significant portion of a collection finished, then we'll move on to adding in the translation. For now, when we make the transcriptions available, people can have a kind of a rough idea of the contents by simply plugging them into a translation engine. But one of the aspects of what we do is that we transcribe the letters exactly in order to preserve, things like dialect usage and so on. So that's kind of one of the things to watch out for, and that's one of the things we try to resolve when we're making the translations available. So that's kind of another hiccup in
I can absolutely understand that. My grandmother's family is from Bremen, which is North Sea. My grandfather's family is from Thuringen, which is the former East Germany. And I don't even, other than the fact that the story is they met in a beer hall, I have no idea how they had anything in common whatsoever. That's chalk and cheese. Unbelievable there. Mary Kate, we have a question from the audience. And this is one that I had on my list to ask as well, because you said that during the height of the pandemic, when you were doing curbside service, you had a take and grab basket or a take and grab kit. We want to know what's in the kit.
It was, again, kind of like probably everybody in the pandemic kind of scrambling to figure out how to best serve the customers. So a lot of it was what we had on hand. So the family wheels were in there. I got some marketing swag for like pens and stuff to put in there too. So it was going to be perfectly easy and all put together to get started when you got home. I put in a couple of sheets of like suggested questions and places to look for information you might not think to include. What else was in there? A couple of other like flyers for our genealogy services. We have an obituary index that is really robust, so making sure people knew about that. I think that was probably it. My hope was that it would be something you could put in somebody's hand and then they could go home and sit down at the dinner table and immediately jump on it. So that was the plan.
Outstanding. Carol Whitten, again from the audience, the question of, was there a time frame cutoff that you followed for the church records?
Yes and no. We take the whole sets of books that they have right up to the present, and we scan all of them. But what we put online is limited by our privacy laws. But we do keep the rest of them so that in the future we could add another 5 years or another 10 years as the privacy laws change.
Terrific. Yeah, that really makes sense. And of course, it also provides that backup of their records, because all of us have seen what happens in a situation with one flood, one fire, the workman who leaves the cigarette burning in the courthouse, and then the records are gone. So I like that idea. That's
or in our case, one tornado.
Yeah, that'll do it as well. I'm in central New Jersey, and we're still thinking about Hurricane Sandy. So I get the feeling there completely. For all of you, let me get one more to Cliff, and then I'm going to toss out a couple to all of you. But Cliff, is there any plan at this point, now that we don't want Chester County resting on its laurels, to expand into other time periods?
Yes, but I don't want to commit. I'm working with a local genealogist and a local historian who created a warrant and survey map. Patents, basically the original people who acquire properties from the proprietary government. She created a patent map or survey map of the northwest corner of that. And I'm, basically in talks with her to basically convert that to a interactive map.
And you are muted one more time.
The space bar.
Yes, don't hit the space bar.
But we're talking about doing that, but that's a long-term goal because we still need to finish basically all of Chester County for 1777.
Okay, so I have two questions that I want to run through with everybody. Number one is the issue of replicability. If you were to tell people the one piece of advice about your concept that they would need to know before going in this route, what would it be? And I'm going to do it in reverse order. We'll start with Carol at St. Louis. What would the one bit of advice you would give people before they take on this kind of a project?
I would suggest that they limit what they start with to a particular set of years or a particular set of congregations, and then build from there.
Okay, Sherry Daniels.
I would say, think about storytelling. If you're going to, if you're doing the event, that's a reveal. That's kind of, you can go freeform on that. But if you want to videotape that and create some sort of episode that people can watch, we chose to even interject, we break into each episode and have education components. So we even have, we try to be a little bit more educational with our episodes and everything, but think about what, number one, research drives everything. You have to be able to solve the question that people have presented, but then does it tell a good story? And so think about how you're going to tell a genealogy brick wall solution in a story format that viewers might enjoy, especially viewers who may not know how to research their family history at all. You're just trying to lure them in to get started. So storytelling.
I like that idea. Mary Kate from St. Louis Public Library.
I think my best advice is to do it. Don't assume that your current method is inclusive enough. Don't assume that what has worked forever will continue to work. Particularly as you want to encourage more and more people, particularly young people, to get involved with genealogy. I think meeting them where they're at is one of the best ways to do it. And the more simple and the more streamlined that can be, the better. And there's no such thing as too much inclusivity. There's no such thing as making anything too accessible.
I'll go with you on that one. Carol Ansell from Godfrey.
Okay, I would say don't try to do it all yourself. One of the best things we did fairly recently is we set up the next meeting and we gave people homework. So we set up a Google Slides and asked each person to just put in a slide or two. And then when we met virtually, I just kind of went on to the slides and, moved them ahead for people, and they discussed their particular contribution, and people really enjoyed that a lot. And that, it gets away from one person doing the whole thing all the time.
A little bit of show and tell.
Yep.
Good. Atiba.
I think there are two things I'd say. One is to strategize how you're going to recruit people who might help with the project. We've kind of ended up with our volunteers through serendipity in some ways, and if we had more strategy behind it, we might have an even larger user base, which would be great. The other thing I would say is that it's important to think about the multiple. Even if you're focusing on one kind of record, it's useful to think about how you're going to incorporate the information that people have in other forms. So some people may have diaries or photographs relating to the letters and the people who are mentioned in the letters, and it's good to have in mind how you're going to capture that information too.
Couple of questions that have come in for your project from the listeners. One is, if people have letters in their possession from your time period, can they donate them?
Yes, absolutely. So you can reach out to me at contact@germanletters.org. And what usually I will dialogue over email and set up a Dropbox account where you can scan your email, scan your letters, and contribute them to the project that way. We also have a partnership with the Max Kade Institute at the University of Wisconsin for German American Studies. So if there are people who have these letters and want to also donate them to a physical repository, we can work with them on that as well.
Terrific. Cliff, your advice?
My advice would be kind of like Carol's, basically start small. Pick a specific area to focus on, whether it's a specific event that occurred on that location, or if your ancestor owned that property at one time, and then expand out from there. It's much more manageable when you're staring at an empty map and then seeing all of the properties you're going to have to document. It is daunting.
That makes perfectly good sense to me. The whole notion of, how do you eat an elephant? We eat an elephant one bite at a time makes such good sense, particularly when we're talking about societies, libraries, archives, and museums, because none of you have anywhere near the resources that you could use, that we would like to see you get, and particularly not that can be directed exclusively to something that's mostly valuable to genealogists and historical researchers. We understand that everybody's got a broader scope, even if you are a genealogical society. But the expansiveness, the ability of each of these projects to be adapted into other situations. I mean, you look at the German records, you think of the Vietnamese boat people and the losses of records that were created during that time, and how this kind of a letters project could fill in some of those needs. You look at what the congregations are doing in St. Louis, and you think about some of the small Baptist and Methodist churches out in the hinterlands of Alabama or Mississippi or Georgia, where this kind of a project would make all the difference. We constantly hear issues from school teachers that, I can't do a family history project because some kids literally don't have a family. The notion of bringing people in the door by enticing them with the possibility of their own Kentucky history. The way that history gets overlaid on maps with what Cliff and the Chester County people are doing, and the service to librarians themselves from the ability to share information in the roundtables. This is why this whole SLAM event is just the best thing that I think could have been done. We all owe Scott Hall of the St. Louis Public Library a tremendous vote of thanks for the help and the guidance and the vision of doing this. We're delighted that everybody was able to be here and ask questions. You have the syllabus materials to look at and go over and savor and consider how this can be done in your own work. And we have all of the videos, all 30 plus submissions that people now are going to be able to go ahead and look at. I don't know how to say thank you to all of you, to all of the organizations that participated. But thank you all on behalf of the National Genealogical Society, on behalf of all of the SLAM entrants, on behalf of all genealogists who are saying, what a great thing you guys are doing.